السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مساكم الله بالخير. صلوا على النبي. Your Excellencies, dear guests and attendees, welcome to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. With its great summer vibes that we're living at the moment, well, the end of it. As well as welcome to Riyadh City, where people live here 24/7, a life of culture and business. Welcome to the boulevard of Riyadh City, where imagination is lived around the year. As well as imagination is lived here with Gamers 8. When we're talking about the biggest event for esports in the world, with many zones here locally happening, like the Game Development Zone, which cares for the development and the educational side of the gaming industry in Gamers 8. Many programs has been presented within the Game Development Zone and its community with as many as 10 partners to get as much success in the supporting of the game development segment, of course, as well those who are interested in electronic gaming. Supporting them in developing their skills in programming, enabling them to reach the games that they want, the gamers community, and to get to a wider, bigger scale of audience. And of course, for sure, welcome to ThinkTech. With great local and international minds from the tech industry, joined hands in developing and raising awareness in emerging technologies to create a great digital society. Tonight, during the course of this forum, great minds from the gaming development industry gather to talk about the future of game development, the status of entrepreneurship and investment in gaming, and motivate and inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs and developers. Creating the next big thing in the gaming industry, or by the way, the next angry development in it, so just saying, Henry. And of course, definitely we're here to inspire the future, to inspire tomorrow, and to get things up and running, and of course, get everybody within the game development industry definitely excited. First of all, let me welcome from the Saudi Esport Federation, the representative for it, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Shiddi, who is the Chief Human Resources Officer at the Saudi Esport Federation and Head of the Educational Programs in Gamers Season. Welcome to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Game Development Zone, which is one of the Gamers 8's zones. And I want to take this opportunity just to give a brief about the Saudi Sport Federation season, Gamers 8. Gamers 8, as the RMC mentioned, it's the biggest e-sport event and festival across the world. It has four main pillars: the festival and elite esports and education, and the concert and the music activities. So we had like beautiful 8 weeks. And this week is the last week of the season. So in festival we had like 10 zones with more than 1,000 of activities and 1.3 million visitors to this season. In addition to that, we had like 850,000 participants in our activities. In the elite esports, we have hosted more than 480 elite players from over 100 teams with 62 nationalities. This is a brilliant number, and it was beautiful tournaments between all players who had enjoyed the 8 weeks tournaments and competitions. In music, for example, we had 8 concerts invited 34 artists with more than 80,000 attended our music concerts. And this beautiful area, which is the education zone, we had more than 16 programs between workshops, training classes, game development programs. 30,000 visitors have visited our beautiful zone. We have developed more than 250 games. Also, this is all happening with our great partnerships with our partners, and one of them, and the main one, the strategic one, which is MCIT. And tonight, one of the events that we are proud to be part of it, the ThinkTech talk. This is the last event we're here, and closing with our guests and speakers. I just want to welcome everyone and hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim. And now please welcome on stage. I've got the spotlight. That's interesting. Thank you. Right. So now, welcome on stage the Assistant Deputy from the Ministry of Future Skill, Assistant Deputy Minister of Future Skills and Digital Knowledge at the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, Mr. Mohammed Sahim. Please, welcome to the stage.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening everyone. I was preparing this speech in Arabic, but I can do bilingual, so let me try to do so. So welcome everyone, good evening. My name is Mohammed Sahim, I'm from the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology. I want to welcome you to this event, which is ThinkTech Talk, which was one of the initiatives by MCIT, Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, and it's aimed to develop the community and spread the digital awareness and digital content across the world, and especially in Saudi Arabia. So the importance of this is to develop the human capability and spread the content of digital awareness and digital knowledge in the whole technology, especially now with the partnership of Saudi eSport and the eSport and gaming industry. And this is actually the second version of this talk. Last year we had it virtually because of COVID, and it was interesting, and this is one of reasons why we want to have it this year as well. Because of the achievements or the success that we had it last year, and with the eSport Federation, especially with this event, as well as the season of Gamers 8. Gamers 8 is very interesting season where we had a lot of programs and initiatives and focus areas on human capital development, especially in education, where we had multiple events of developing capability and doing networking events, especially with kids, youth, gameathons and others, where we partner with eSports and some of the initiatives, and we had a lot of success. And it's quite interesting that we see you here as well, and we hope that you will enjoy this event, and hope also to see you soon and achieve what you and learn a lot from what you are wanted to come here and learn from it. Thank you everyone for coming here, and looking forward to see you during the event, and thank you so much.
Here's the mic. Great. So now it's absolute pleasure to welcome a global success story. So welcome, please, with me on stage, the co-founder of technology and technology director at Spider Entertainment, Mr. Kevin Williams.
Thank you very much. Thank you. May I first say that it is an honor to be the keynote speaker here, and may I thank all involved with ThinkTech for inviting me over to what I have to say is an impressive event, the first of the physical events, and one of those moments where we will look back with great ambition and pride to be involved at the beginning of this process. Now, as a technology director, I have to see if the technology works. Yes, it does. Incredible. Well, thank you very much for your time. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Kevin Williams. I'm a specialist in the immersive out-of-home entertainment sector, which is a sector right at the beginning of adoption internationally. We are part of the casino, the theme park, the location-based entertainment, the virtual reality sector. And it is a sector that you're all familiar with if you go to theme parks or even here looking at the esports and entertainment, but it is an aspect of the sector which is growing greatly. And I will try and go into some detail about the opportunities that exist in that market, but also where we're going forward with the latest technology. I have the pleasure of running, being one of the co-founders of Spider Entertainment. Spider Entertainment was specially created 18 months ago to focus more on creating facilities and locations that build upon this technology, but also to work with new companies that are developing the sectors, as well as the established names in that sector. And we've been lucky enough to start our negotiations here in Riyadh towards more developments of entertainment facilities, which I'll touch upon the kind of style of facilities that you'll be looking at. But when I talk about immersive entertainment, when we talk about location-based entertainment, there's an important question that we all need to ask ourselves. If you have technology at home, if you have virtual reality at home, the metaverse is there. Why would you want to leave your homes? You have the comfort. But we are social animals, and it is important that we all understand that location-based entertainment allows us to enjoy the experience, not just on our own, but with our families, with our friends, and with other individuals. And so, where some people are fixated on the virtual, immersive sector being a metaverse, we in the out-of-home entertainment look at a social approach. We look at entertainment being socially inclusive. The technology that we use in our facilities has progressed over the years, and it calls upon many technologies and many applications that are now being driven not just by the latest mobile phone technology, not by the latest technology in satellite communication or supercomputing, but we're also now starting to employ AI, machine learning, robotics into our technology. We are creating immersive entertainment spaces that are compelling, but also unique. The type of technology that we originated with is virtual reality. We have then progressed to mixed reality and augmented reality, but it is the combining of all of this together to create XR, cross reality, extreme reality, which is the driving force. And this is not just technology that is built on a mobile phone or on a personal computer, but where the whole of the facility is part of the experience. In the amusement sector, we've been using virtual reality in ride systems, able to compel people to be pulled into immersive environments. We have stand-up virtual reality systems that allow individuals to play all of the popular virtual reality games, but within a simple and easy-to-use kiosk design. We have multiple playing experiences that drive the audience into group activities, not singular, but group entertainment experiences. The technology. Sorry. We have now incorporated technology into bumper cars and ride experiences, and we've even incorporated the technology into swimming pool and immersive flume ride experiences. But it is not just the technology of individual, but it is the technology of the group experience that drives us. We have now created immersive experiences for social inclusion, multiple players placed into virtual environments. And then we now move away from the needs of using virtual reality to mixed reality. First with augmented reality systems, and then with projection, removing the need of having to have a head-mounted display. The ability to use projection, where we can create go-karts and karting experiences that are totally compelling. Even a climbing wall can be turned into an interactive experience system, and now using machine learning and computer vision, we can place the individual into the virtual experience. It is the ability to achieve technology experiences that are unachievable with home systems that drives our industry. We are not just creating theme parks made from bricks and mortar, but painting their environments with digital light. We are now mixing all of these technologies into multiple entertainment experiences. So rather than just walking into a site and using, shall we say, a virtual reality headset, we are now projecting that environment. We are using interactive game systems that allow them to see aspects of the digital world. And all of this, at the click of a mouse, can be changed and made even more compelling. But it is more about the facilities in which we place the individual that is driving our future. To have people come to our locations that are not temporary but permanent location-based entertainment sites, we have to create environments that are not just comfortable but compelling. Hospitality and food mixed with a leisure experience. And that leisure experience has been at the heart of these last few days of this event, because it is competition that is driving the future. We don't just play together, but we consume together. We don't just consume together, but we play our parts. We compete together. And it is important to create an entertainment environment that is both enjoyable, but combative, exciting and thrilling, because we need the audience to come back again and again. This is not a passive experience, but it is an experience that everyone can share and improve. We are now seeing the deployment of drone racing within our location-based entertainment facilities. Both the conventional drone racing, but also the high levels of competition that we see in the international market. And here is an example of the mixture, the combination, the hybrid nature of our environments. On one side, we have leisure entertainment, but on the other side, we have the ability to turn these locations into competitive entertainment centers. Some would call even esports. We have seen in Asia the growth of the first of the esports environments, and now we are bringing that experience to location-based entertainment. The ability to have an audience, the ability to stage and stream these events. We have now seen Formula One enter the market. High professional sports now wants to be part of the location-based entertainment revolution. They want to incorporate the audience into the competition. They also want the ability to have esports with all of its capabilities, with all of its audience, with all of its appeal, able to be driven to the location. Where players may play at home originally, they will move on to being able to compete with their peers in location-based entertainment facilities. And of course, with location-based entertainment and esports, the ability to have the competition move to the next level with wagering, with the ability of prize, and, as I have been learning this afternoon, with the inclusion of education. Because the youth of today will be taught how to become the athletes of tomorrow in the digital world. And virtual reality has a part to play in that sector. We are now at a point in the industry where the next few years will see virtual reality esports competition driving the future of investment and entertainment. But I've taken enough of your time, and we are lucky enough to have some very great panel sessions going on after this. I would just like you to take away from my brief words the most important aspect of what location-based entertainment and the future of immersive has to offer. It is not just about a boring, simple, staid experience, but it is immersive. It offers repeat visitation. It is compelling through the use of digital technology as well as machine learning. And finally, it's socially inclusive. Everyone can play and everyone can have a great time. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you all later on today. Thank you again for your time.
So, moving on with our agenda, definitely now it's a time to get a bit of form starting. So we have a couple of discussion panels. First one to be the future of game development. That is better, thank you so much. So the first one to be about game development within the region, of course, as well as internationally. Please help me in welcoming the panelists for this session. First of all, Mr. Henry Holm, who is the Chief Financial Officer at Sandsoft Games, as well as Mr. Philip Wright, who's the founder and CEO of Cheesecake Digital. And I'll be the moderator of this session with you, Faisal Al-Saif, بإذن الله. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So, first of all, now let us, first, welcome to Saudi Arabia, of course.
Thank you very much.
First visit?
I live here.
First visit, say fifth time, right?
Fifth time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, so literally, you live here. So we got to talk about the status of the game development, let's say, sector in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to start.
Let's do that. So Sandsoft is a 2-year-old company. Our mission is to build great games to the world from the heart of Riyadh. Our business is built on 3 different pillars. One is that we do investments into the games and game studios outside of the kingdom. We look into the publishing business, really building that muscle memory and capabilities of acquiring users and keeping them engaged to the games. And then finally, it's all about our studio plans, which is then addressing the question, the talent in the kingdom.
Brilliant. What about you see in the Middle East? How do you see it from your perspective, living in Dubai and stuff?
So I'm based in Dubai. I've been here in the region for the past 7 years, and coming from the UK markets, it's a fantastic opportunity. There's lots of potential here. You've got the youth, you've got the support and the infrastructure, and I think it's about supporting and enabling that. If I go back in time, when I went to university 20 years ago, I was trying to do a computer graphics course because I wanted to go into the industry. And I think where technology has gone, the actual ease of access to technology, I mentioned the support mechanisms, education is a big part of that, but now anybody who wants to enter the industry, it's so much easier to do that.
Brilliant. Now, if we're talking about the game development industry in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we can say definitely it's an emerging market. It's a market that is still getting a lot of education going on. It's still a market that's getting a lot of people interested, let's say, and lured into the whole game development side of the game industry. And there comes the promises, or let's say not the promises, the potential of the section itself and the industry itself. How do you see the potential in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia regarding game development industry?
So if you look at the player base is growing. People are interested to not only spend time, but also money while gaming, having fun, being entertained. So there's a local stories that can be built into the global audience. There's a great examples around the world. There's smaller countries like Korea is a good example where local game development, game stories, and even culture has been exposed to the rest of the world. I think we are in the same situation here where we have a wealth and story telling and historical events that can be really elaborated. But not only that, but also it's a talent density. So it is a long journey to build a thriving ecosystem of game development. It's not that it happens in a few years. It's a really long path starting from the youth of being interested about gaming and then having the opportunity to actually study the subject and then finally finding the job in the industry. And this industry is global. People are mobile, they work everywhere, and they are large, very large creative community.
Brilliant. Now, if I ask the attendees, attendants here, who from you are game developers? Who do you find yourself game developers? Raise your hands. Not a lot of game developers in the audience. Who of you think that game development in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has huge potential? Bismillah, mashallah. Oh yeah, much better, much better. So the potential is definitely there, but there's yet a culture that needs to be raised within the community itself regarding the game industry and, let's say, the bravery of entering that industry and the long breath that you need as well within that industry. So how would you say about that?
So just to add to Henry's point, I think one of the great opportunities is that there's a passion for gaming, and that's key. And the way that I look at the industry, and based on some of my experiences, if we're talking game development, yes, it's a long journey. There's a process to go through in developing the ecosystem here in the kingdom. But people need to think about it from two sides, realistically. And I call it the two E's. You're either an employee or you're an entrepreneur, okay? Now, you will take a very different approach and a different route depending on what you want to achieve. Yes, you're going to need some skills and you're going to have the courses to support that, but the ecosystem needs both. It needs people who are willing to say, I have a passion, I want to create something, and I'm willing to take on that challenge myself, but it also needs the people to say, I see your vision, I'm going to support you and help you as an employee. And I think that's one of the key fundamentals for developing the ecosystem as a whole, is to keep in mind that there are those two different types of roles and we need to support both.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, coming from that perspective, as in the kingdom as well in Saudi Arabia, I mean, gamers have been known forever, of course. I mean, like any other country. But for the game development section, which is literally growing up very bravely, let's say, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, does have a bit of social resistance. And within social resistance come the challenges of making those decisions that you just mentioned, that people believing in people who have ideas to do with gaming. So such culture, if I ask you, how do you find such culture can be tackled, triggered, or let's say handled?
Well, if you look at the industry, it is a hit-driven business, but you can still find small studios anywhere in the world that can reach to a 30 million player base on daily basis. So these successes can be built, and I don't doubt that we will see this as well from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. However, saying that, it requires a team that has a full-fledged skill set. So by making a fantastic game idea, leading that, the technology choices and the innovation into your first vertical slice to your marketability testing and getting these promising, KPI numbers that you need the game to be successful, it's still not enough. That team of, 5, 8, up to maybe 15 people requires the funding. And I think that's the key thing here, that, being that entrepreneur, that you are able to pull off that funding requires also then the ecosystem support beyond the skill set.
That takes me to the programs and initiatives that are here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Do you have an idea about such programs, or are you interested in those programs or participating in some of those programs?
We are participating in part of those programs, and our dream is also to start developing the skills of the youth in the kingdom as part of our company.
Brilliant. from your perspective, what programs and initiatives should be in place to get the gaming development, let's say, industry up and running in any emerging community?
So going back to the point I just made, I think entrepreneurship is a key thing. We can have the university programs and we can say, okay, you know, you want to be somebody who focuses on graphics, you want to be somebody who focuses on core, you know, back-end infrastructure tech, whatever it may be. And it's like, okay, you can learn the skills for that. And yes, you can put your time and efforts in to refine those, understand, appreciate the new technology coming through. And, you know, that education piece is great, but that's still only parts of the equation. You need the support to say, okay, you know, those small studios, whether it is 4, 8, 15 people, somebody needs to take that on and create them, and they need to understand the challenges that go with that. It's not just about saying, great, I'm in the industry. The industry is been built on people taking that plunge, and passion, yes, is one of those key things. And you were talking about the way that the kingdom looks at game development at the minute, and the whole ecosystem and the growth within it. And the comment that I would like to share is that if you want to work in the industry, that's your choice. That's your decision as an individual. Your friends, your family may look at you and say, what are you doing? It's an underdeveloped industry. It's about you and your choice. And I'm not going to say it's easy. True. In the same way that if you want to be a professional footballer, that's not easy.
True.
But if you have that drive and that determination, you can do it.
How do you take... Please.
Well, I would say, you know, that you can start early as well, you know, so it's really, you know, the technology is out there. You know, Roblox is a good example of, you know, practicing your skill set. You know, Minecraft is a beautiful place of, you know, meeting your friends and creating worlds. So that creative aspect of, you know, being a game maker and a, you know, content maker and a gameplay maker is already, you know, a possibility. So once we overlay that with the, you know, the previous speakers, you know, even more immersive experiences, you know, it's anybody's, you know, take. You don't necessarily need any more large teams to be a very successful, you know, a gameplay or even to be discovered from these platforms.
I mean, that takes me, I mean, you were referring to the previous speaker, talking about immersive experiences and stuff. That takes me to a question about game development within risk-taking and targeting the proper audience. I mean, entrepreneurs sometimes think of an idea which is amazing, yet sometimes you think it's not the right time for it. The technology is not that mature, the audience are not there, or fund will be challenging to get and acquire. And yes.
Okay, so you're putting I put my CFO hat on now. So ideal investment case for, you know, when we look at the KPI numbers would be that you would be able to build a game where you had a very low acquisition cost, CPI cost. You know, let's start with, you know, a few, let's say tens of cents when you are building that first testable, marketable, you know, game concept idea. And you go out with that one. It's a fast prototyping approach. You need to be able to allow yourself to make good decisions. People talk often a lot about, you know, fast failures, but maybe it's not so much about failures. Maybe it's more about making those conscious decisions of making sure that you learn what you have done before. And by doing that iterative process, that could be within the one genre of the game, or it could be, you know, touching different, you know, gameplay and areas, or even merging those to find that something that is marketable. Then you start systematically building out, you know, your product. You're very, very target and mission-driven, you know, operations in that time. So just by doing, you know, hit and miss type of, you know, shotgun approach doesn't necessarily bring you to the final great game idea.
I just want to give a different perspective. I can completely agree with what Henry's saying. There's also a different way of looking at this. And yes, the industry is hit-driven, but do you need to make a hit? If you spend your time creating a game, a technology platform, a product, and you can build an audience and a community, and you can effectively monetize that, and you may only get to 10,000 people, but if you can get $10 a month from each of them, that's not bad. Do you need to be striving for 100 million, 500 million, $1 billion as we see in the industry because it's hit-driven? Or do you need to think about, okay, for me as an individual and my team, what do we need to feel comfortable so that we can keep doing what we love, spend the time and effort on that, and still make enough to survive while delivering a great experience?
From that point, do you see investors interested in the $100,000 monthly generating game, or do you see them looking at the billions? It's challenging to get investors, convinced into a game development. Yeah, when you go to that side of the story in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, do you find it's a healthy market for from investments towards the game development industry?
Well, you need to look beyond the kingdom itself. You can't just service one country or one region. You have to immediately have that global ambition and looking into a much bigger picture. If you want to get a serious investment behind of your game development, it is a global market day one. It is not a hobby. It is a very systematic business building, and it is requiring a lot of capital at the time of publishing. User acquisition and community building is a very, very tedious and costly job.
What about your side of the story when it comes
Well,
to
I obviously have a
investors?
very different opinion on this, because it's like, again, what is the size and scale that you want to get to? Yes, if you're trying to build something at scale, you need the financial capital to support that. And okay, that is a hard process. But if you are able to bootstrap and feel comfortable taking on that risk and getting to a point that's comfortable for you, you may not need the investments. I appreciate, yes, for the investment companies, it is a challenge to say, okay, I've got a couple of options here. Where do I want to put my money? What's the return profile that I'm looking for as an investor? And I know we've got another panel on this, but it's like, okay, again, do you go, here's my one and only opportunity, I'm going to put in 5, 10, 15, 25 million and see what happens? Or do I say, actually, I could take that and I could do 10, 20, 30 different companies and support them and see what happens? It'll come down to the investor, their appetite, and what it is that they want to achieve. Again, if they're a fund, they'll have to hit a return. If they're a family office, you may look at it slightly differently.
And investors, when they are originally gamers, it's easier to convince them, right? Definitely. Now, going to the last part. We got 5 minutes, so definitely got to tackle the last part of this nice talk and ask about game development by itself. What tools, what skills, what can be done to accelerate this whole, let's say, industry of game development within any country, within a community, let's say, within a country, within an emerging community such as ours?
Well, I take my personal example. So 10 years ago, Rovio Entertainment out of Finland, Helsinki, the capital city, 650,000 people, not many game makers around. It was very difficult to attract global talent. You need talent density. You need that, great minds really rubbing off good ideas, bad ideas, getting that, diverse look into the game industry. And by having that, you are able to then build multiple game companies. So now, 10 years later, we can find, game companies of, 5 guys coming together, or, not necessarily, just, guys, but, guys and girls coming together, and they can build something that is, already industry standard, 30 million players, on monthly basis, daily basis, and highly profitable, scalable global game. And it is, literally out of nowhere. So, you look at the big city of Riyadh, the talent density is here. We need to be able to really nurture the ecosystem, build that, that possibility to not only build the games, but also build the game companies. That's what it needs.
From your perspective, Philip?
I would say start there, but look further afield. We're in a world that is now connected. It's even more connected because of the last 2 years. You've got tech that's easily accessible. You've got the toolkits, whether that's Unity or Unreal or any of the others. You've got the communities that have been created around that. So whatever it is that you want or you need, you can get access to that, which means that even if you build a remote team that has a member in Latin America and Europe and Asia, it's still possible to create the types of experiences that you want to create. And yes, sometimes it becomes easier working within a local ecosystem and sharing that experience and the stories and the talents. But if you can't find that when you want to get started, that shouldn't stop you. You can still connect with people around the world who are on the same path as you.
Brilliant. I'm going to be asking each of you gentlemen the same question. Working in the game development industry for as long as you've gents worked, one lesson that you learned that you wished you learned before you got into the industry that would have helped within the whole time? I mean, you're smiling there. There's already something on your mind. So please, what lesson did you learn that you wished you knew from the beginning before entering this field?
It's not easy. And I say that because I actually failed my university degree because I couldn't do the maths and the graphics, okay? So it isn't easy, but if you have that drive and the determination, like anything in life, you will find a way to make it happen.
Games making is a people business. You have to really understand your culture, the team culture, company culture, ability to thrive, be persistent. You can't give up. You know, if I go back into the Rovio example, 50 games or 52 games, you're not necessarily considered successful by that time, but maybe your next game is.
Indeed. Mr. Philip Ryder, who is the founder and CEO of Cheesecake Digital, right? And Mr. Henry Holm, who is the Chief Financial Officer at Sandsoft Games. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for this panel. Thank you very much for this. Thank you. So we definitely have another session, and we'll definitely move on from talking about the status of the game development industry here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and internationally as well, to the promising opportunities in the Saudi market. Now, please welcome with me panelists. Let's first of all welcome the moderator for the next panel. Have the slides, please, for the speakers. And the moderator, Mr. Basim Al-Mohammadi, Startup Development Consultant and CEO of Zitment. Please, welcome to the stage. Mr. Brian Ward, CEO of Savvy Games Group. Mr. Mohammed Rubayyan, Secretary General of Digital Content Council in Saudi Arabia and advisor to His Excellency the Minister of Communication and Information Technology for Strategic Projects. Welcome. Mr. Marcus Dimfel, who's the partner at EY Pathnon Strategy. Welcome. And of course, welcome Mr. Walid Al-Balla, General Partner at Sukna Ventures VC. Welcome to the stage, gentlemen, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Faisal. It's going to be hard to moderate this panel after Faisal, mashallah, tabarakallah. First of all, good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome our speakers here and our audience as well. Just before we start, I just want to ask a quick question, which is the other question Faisal didn't ask. How many gamers do we have in the room? Woo! You want to clap so people will know? That's amazing, mashallah, tabarakallah. And I will shift this question also to our panelists. How many gamers do we have here sitting with us? Okay, amazing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But before we go there, we're going to start with the first question today, is how do you see the current state of gaming and game development in Saudi Arabia, especially after we heard from the private sector, and how do you see this? Maybe we'll start with you, Mr. Mohammed, from the government perspective.
Okay, so thank you, Basim, for hosting us. Really appreciate the invite. I'm looking forward to this session. To start out with, the number of players that we have here in Saudi is truly high. You'd hear different numbers, but one of the most credible numbers is 23.5 million players in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And that's a whole lot of people playing games in a country of about 36 million people living in it. I think the number is higher. Looking at people around me that play, I see my children, myself, even my parents play, which is amazing. You would think that it's just something for the youth. It's not. We have a lot of gamers from different age groups. These gamers, Basim, we have seen recently that we have champions come out of these players. World champions, both male and female, which we are really proud of. We see the attention that we get from social media, social gaming platforms. We have recently seen over the past year and a half, a spike in the social gaming platforms in Saudi. We have STC Play, Zain, we have Mobile has also started Play Hera from the private sector. as well. We see a lot of content being created by the gamers themselves. As an example, I have a couple of gamers that have subscribers above 10 million, right? So the potential is huge. The study that we did back in 2020 placed the revenues at about $700 million for gaming. So that gives you an idea, Basim, about the potential that we have and why we have it. Thank you.
That shows how promising it is. Maybe we'll start with you, Mr. Brian. How do you see the current status of game development here in Saudi Arabia?
It's a tremendously high potential market for the reasons that have been mentioned already. But not only does 70% of the population play games on a regular basis, which is one of the highest percentages of any place in the world. They also spend more than just about any place in the world. It's already the 19th largest market. And people are starting to realize the potential of not just Saudi Arabia, but the MENA region. There are more active gamers in the MENA region than there are in the US or in Western Europe. And the people in the West are starting to realize how much potential there is here, and they are very interested in serving this market.
What makes it the largest number, do you think?
My theory is that historically there haven't been a lot of other entertainment options. Okay. So, you know, for 2 generations of people had not as many entertainment options as in the West.
Oh, okay, that's amazing. Do you want to add on that, Marcus? How do you see the current status today in Saudi?
Well, yes, it's certainly something that on the consumer side is already, very strong due to what Mohammed and Brian already said. It's a very dynamic population, more than 20 million gamers, affluent. So it's already, I think, in terms of ranking under the top 20. So I think top 18 market in the world. Given the history, I mean, that's tremendous, and I think there's even more room to grow because the growth in the region, I mean, the gaming market as such is growing at, compared to other industries at a fast pace, but in the region and in the KSA, it's even growing stronger. So there's a huge potential to further drive the consumer revenues, and then as the industry develops and as the ecosystem is established, and we touched upon many of the aspects before in the panel, like, you need the funding, you need the training and the infrastructure. But if you have that, while you grow at that pace, you are capable of even keeping more money within the KSA. And that's certainly something that, is hugely helpful when you have that hybrid approach of growing organically, having big acquisitions happening so that each can reinforce the other, and so that's why I think there are huge opportunities for gaming in the kingdom.
Thank you, Mr. Reid. How do you see the current status from the VC point of view of the game development here in Saudi?
Okay, so to be frank, it's both exciting and frustrating at the same time. If you look at the demand side, it's exciting. I was talking with someone from Crafton who developed PUBG, and they were telling me the Saudi gamer actually spends 3x what a Japanese player spends. Wow. If you look at general gamer spending, it's 3x what's in Europe, right? So we're almost as much as the Chinese player, which they spend a lot. According to NICO, we spent as gamers in Saudi $1 billion last year. That's 60% of revenue in all of MENA. The demand is very healthy and it's growing because of demographics. On the supply side, it's a very different story. There are lots of attempts. There's a big appetite, to develop something. I have a theory why it didn't work before, but as a matter of fact, the supply is not meeting the demand, at least the local supply. That's causing a lot of leakage to outside markets and also not providing the gamers with the local flavor that they're looking for. We have an opportunity for developing huge IP that utilizes the history that we have, the stories that we have. And that's an opportunity that I think for me as a VC is very exciting once we can actually, make it work.
Okay, thank you for that. Going back to you, Mr. Mohammed, what are the gaming sector growth targets today?
So we do have targets that we're following up on quite religiously. These targets come from different initiatives that I would love to maybe later on explain to you the different initiatives that we have to achieve these targets. But the targets that we are after relate to jobs. So we're looking to have 82x growth in jobs relating to the gaming sector. We have a 260% increase in the revenues. And we also have the retention, which was mentioned by Marcus. We have targets as well for that. I don't have the exact number now, but revenue retention is one of the most important aspects of Ignite. And these are basically the numbers that we're following up on, making sure this is our North Star.
Okay, we'll get back to Ignite the next question. But I will go back to Mr. Brian, asking them, being as a CEO of Savvy today, do you have targets, and how can you see these targets being fulfilled or reached nowadays?
We certainly have targets. Our chair is His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, so I can assure you that not only do we have aggressive targets, but everybody is following up on those targets very religiously to ensure that we meet them. And I sometimes joke this is a very weird startup that we've got. Among other things, we've got KPIs that relate to creation of direct and indirect jobs in the kingdom. I think the target is 7,000 direct jobs and 12,000 indirect jobs or something like that, as well as a KPI related to contribution to GDP by 2030. That's not a usual startup metric. And then, of course, all of our operating companies have metrics against game development company has got its usual KPIs with respect to the development. The most interesting set of metrics, I think, relates to and targets relates to 966, which is a sponsor of this center, and working closely with MCIT and other stakeholders to develop the ecosystem. And that, to me, is one of the most exciting aspects of Savvy, is the participation in, which again is not the usual sort of fully commercial entity model that you would be following if you didn't have the PIF as your sole shareholder. And that, to me, is probably one of the most exciting things, because that's where there's a lot of opportunity speaking to the supply side.
Okay, maybe if we go back to Ignite point, what programs and initiatives are in the Saudi Arabia that target development, and how do they benefit those working in the sector?
So under Ignite, we have, of course, Ignite is concerned with digital content overall. But the biggest piece is gaming, with the biggest potential of growth, yeah? So this is the area that we concentrate on the most. We heard Mr. Walid talking about the frustration areas that we have within the sector, and this is why we have built the Ignite program. We have 36 different initiatives for the total sectors, but 8 that relate directly to the gaming, specifically for gaming, right? So for gaming, for instance, we heard in the previous panel discussion the need of funding and how that has stopped some of the potential investors. Ignite has provided through its program about close to $488 million as a fund to so basically for equity and loans, right? So this will definitely help out the potential investors, the companies that we have, the startups that look to release new products. So that's an area for the investors that's very critical and important. Another area is the incubators and accelerators for startups. So we said we need to hold hands of potential entrepreneurs and make sure they do things the right way from the first time, right? So we give them lessons learned from throughout the industry, whether it's local or global, and we make sure we take them through the process of incubators and accelerators, bringing them out to be a full company that can execute business. Another area is incentives, Walid and esteemed colleagues. So there will be incentives for international companies to make Saudi their home. And this will be something that will be announced very soon. Also incentives for the local companies and private sector here in Saudi in the gaming to help them out and have healthier bottom lines. Yeah? So that's with regards to investors. Then we have the really important fold, which is talent. And I'm sorry I'm taking too long, I apologize. So with regards to talent, it's about people, right? And that's the most important corner of anything you want to do. If you don't have the right people, you can't really succeed. So for people, we have training for developers. So Saudi, as we all know, is a young population with a lot of passion, yeah? So we are skilling some people in the gaming sector, and the gaming technologies needed as developers. We're upskilling others, yeah? We have already started the training program. 70 are right now, as we speak, taking these courses, 70 developers. We've heard about others during LEAP event. So this is a very important area for us, which is talent, yeah? The SEF, the Saudi Gaming Federation, has gone above and beyond, honestly. So we see them, we discussed with them earlier on the number of events that we expect are needed to execute the strategy that we have within Ignite. Well, I'll tell you what, they more than doubled the events that we were expecting from them. Amazing effort by SEF that really, truly deserves applause. They've also gone into training people, which are teams and players, international players. This is a very important aspect of the e-sport community as well. So the last bit is with regards to legislation. This is where us government can come in, yeah? And we're not coming in for legislation to stifle or to limit the private sector. That is not the point at all. It's the opposite. It's to break down hurdles that the private sector faces, right? So let me give you an example. IP, intellectual property, one of the most important things for any business, especially when it comes to digital content. We have come up with the regulations with the SEF, and another regulation is, for instance, for service continuity and quality. So these kind of legislations that help the market grow and go to the next level.
Amazing, thank you. Mr. Marcus, how do you think this initiatives would help developing the infrastructure and the ecosystem in general?
Yes, I think these enablers mentioned by Mohamed are key. I think one focus area that I would like to mention, because we talked on game development, is publishing. Because, and that's also something for the investment perspective. If you take a special focus on mobile, which is something that is hugely growing even within the normal gaming ecosystem, which has low barriers to entry, where you can globally scale very quickly, then the game development part is of course crucial, but the publishing part, being able to efficiently manage the funnel, so acquiring companies, having skills like data analytics. So I think these have to go hand in hand, because if you just focus on game developing and miss out this crucial part, especially in the mobile ecosystem, then you'll probably have difficulties. But on the other hand, all these companies that focus on data analytics, on the wider game tech ecosystem, this is something that also, from my client side, I got a lot of positive feedback and that is also something that can be built within the KSA. And yeah, so it's, again, the ecosystem perspective.
Interesting. Mr. Reed, how do you see the opportunities as an investor with listening or witnessing all these type of initiatives and support from the government?
Yes, I think we definitely have the right setup for incubating the business environment that we need for a gaming industry to actually rise up. I focus more on the early stage part of the pipeline. So we invest in companies that are just starting out with ideas. And I think one of the things that we would like to see in our entrepreneurs and the startups is thinking outside of just developing or publishing games themselves. The gaming industry has a big value chain. And in that value chain, there are lots of other parts that are not directly related to developing the game. So you can talk about ad tech, for example, which we are very familiar with. You can talk about fintech solutions for gaming industry. You can think about a social layer that you can create across games. And also, you know, why not leapfrog the industry? So there are lots of frontier and emerging technologies. For example, if we look at crypto, one of the biggest stories there was Axie Infinity, which was built by a Vietnamese team from Vietnam, right? What about VR? What about other frontiers that are not related to entertainment per se, but other niche areas? I'll give you an example. In the US, the FDA just approved a game called Endeavor, and it targets, it's actually prescribed for people with ADHD. Can we do that for people with depression? Can we do that for people with other mental issues? We can have other strategies that I think Savvy is also, already carrying out, and MISC as well, which is acquisitions of others. So there are a multitude of strategies and a multitude of options of getting into that place. And I haven't even talked about the local IP that we can develop from the history that we have, from the stories that we have, that we can actually monetize in so many ways within the gaming industry. So I think that kind of level of discussion is something that we are hopeful that is starting now to happen. We're having now these forums where, people, different stakeholders can meet and talk and exchange expectations so that we learn from each other and get closer to it. Before, it was very hard for us to find gaming companies, but I can say for the last year, maybe year and a half, things have changed to the positive very rapidly.
So any startup will know where to go right now, I believe. Great. Do you see any challenges from side, Mr. Walid, in terms of investment right now in startups in gaming industry?
I think Brian mentioned one big challenge, which is the Saudi consumer is blessed with having too many options for entertainment. So distribution and grabbing the attention of the Saudi consumer is a challenge. And especially in Saudi Arabia. So, for example, if you're a gaming company in China, one way or another, you're protected from foreign competition. Sure. So that industry got a chance to develop internally and then expand outwards. Here it's a different dynamic. So how can we actually compete with those international big budget options? That's where I think some of the strategies I mentioned, focusing on niche areas or frontier tech, or different parts of the value chain, that's what we need to see. In fact, and if you allow me to plug something that we're doing, because we don't want to be a passive investor, we actually want to proactively stimulate the ideas that I mentioned. One thing that we do is we partner up with gaming stakeholders around the world, and we want to build a venture building program, a startup studio kind of program. And tonight, actually, one of our partners, Area 28, is visiting Saudi because we want to try and see how we can create such a place and allow the entrepreneurs to have a bridge into these hard areas, because we have great talent, no doubt. I've seen the talent. The government spent a lot on investing in them. It's just that there's this gap that we need to build a bridge into. Some of it will be fixed by the government, and a lot of those big bridges will be by the government. But then there are some small bridges that us as early stage VCs, we want to focus on and try to stimulate.
Amazing, thank you. Mr. Marcus, what opportunities do you see like as a future for the game development in Saudi Arabia?
It's basically what Walid have pointed out. There are areas around the core game development. I mean, context-wise, it's like I said before. I see potential in creating publishers. Having a strong approach to that ecosystem, being able to find the niches, either from a technological point of view, because it's early days, like crypto games or something that's based on blockchain, but also maybe in the wider tech ecosystem, being the global payment provider, or think about what is possible without having, you know, the requirements of a, I don't know, 1 billion domestic market, not in terms of size, because it's already 1 billion, but in terms of inhabitants. And so that's, I think, where you have to match the prerequisites that you have with your ambition. And I think if you bring that together, I think there's a huge potential for growing the industry in the KSA.
I would take the same question to you, Mr. Mohammed. What opportunities do you see, or the future opportunities for game development in Saudi?
The future of?
The game development in Saudi.
Well, the future, sorry. I see. So the future is very bright, and for the reasons that have been discussed throughout the day, and specifically on this panel, right? So the future, you're going to be provided with the proper upskilling to deliver your dreams, whatever applications you might be dreaming about, or publishing, or you might even have a different dream of studios. You will be helped with this fund as an example. So all the tools are there. Now it's about initiative. Mr. Richard previously mentioned it's about you now. It's about working hard. Now the message is to the attendees and to the people watching us wherever they might be. Now it's on you. Now you got to get moving and make sure that you utilize these great initiatives to your advantage. Yeah?
Yeah, as you said, this is the right time to start and to act and to take action.
Most definitely, yes.
True. Mr. Brian, being in Saudi today also, and you guys are building actually the future here in Saudi, and you, like, there's a huge movement from Saudi to empower even the small company by acquisitions and mergers. How do you see this will help developing this ecosystem in Saudi Arabia?
Well, Bassem, there's a few aspects to this that are sort of commonalities amongst the development of all the gaming hubs that we've seen grow up around the world, some 16, 17 hubs now globally. First of all, it starts with talent. It's always about the people and having the programs in place, both from an educational perspective, and this is one of the things that the Cadre's team at 966 is working on with universities and educational institutions to stand up the correct sorts of STEM programs and other areas of study for students who want a career in video games or esports in the kingdom, of which there is a super high percentage of youth who want those jobs, to working, to setting up with the ministry and others infrastructure support, both operationally and financially, for entrepreneurs who want to stand up a company, and not just programs, but follow through. And this is one of the things that we've discovered in our surveys, is that there are some programs available, there are avenues available, but sometimes there's a lack of follow through. So we're working with others to help make sure that it's consistent and sustainable. And then lastly, I think attracting foreign investment. So there are already programs on offer. These are great programs. Perhaps there's an opportunity to improve the visibility of these programs and the marketing of these programs. We're very happy. We recently made an investment in Embracer, which is the industry's largest consolidator and aggregator. 126 development studios they own, 19 publishing companies, transmedia assets. They recently just announced the purchase of the entire Lord of the Rings franchise and The Hobbit, among other things, and not just the games piece, the whole piece, like the movies, everything. Our Embracer with investment, we were able to secure a commitment from them to come to Saudi Arabia to start establishing companies across their various businesses of development, publishing, distribution, merchandising, and so on and so on. They had a list of 16 initiatives. In fact, they're arriving tonight. The chairwoman, the CEO, a couple of their C-suite executives, and 3 of their operating unit CEOs to specifically further the discussions about establishing these businesses in Saudi. They've been very assertive about following up on this promise, which we're very happy about. And this is sort of like Tamimi moving into your shopping center. If you get an anchor tenant like that, you're likely to attract a lot of other foreign investment because other publishers see this. They go, oh, these guys must know something about this region. They've figured out how to do it. We should also open those avenues of discussion. So those are the things those are the 3 pillars that we're focusing on.
Wow, that's amazing. And we're going to talk more about investment in the ecosystem or the video games and e-sport in the following panel. But is there one last message you want to send to the parents, to the gamers, to the developers, investors? Pick one of them or all of them.
Well, I don't know if I'll send any messages to the investors. I'll leave that to Walid. But in terms of parents, and somebody alluded earlier to this evening, you know, some social reticence. I don't frankly see that here in the kingdom, and maybe I'm too new to the country to actually see it. I have seen it in many other places in the past, in my 27 years. India, as an example, 20 years ago, that was a very, very difficult place from that same sort of social acceptance point of view. Parents wanted their children to go become software engineers making business applications and so forth, but not games. It's changed now in India, and this is such a ready market for the development of talent, both from the number of young people there are to their interest in our sector. And I can say, you know, doing these things to develop the ecosystem really does bear fruit, and in not that long a period of time. My home country is Canada. Canada, not unlike Saudi Arabia, you know, for 150 years sold its natural resources. That was basically what we did. And 25, 30 years ago, Ontario and Quebec developed incentive programs to encourage the creation of digital media, not just games, but other digital entertainment. And those programs, especially in Quebec, became so successful over a period of, I think, maybe 10, 15 years only, that a few years in, 10, 15 years in, Montreal, which is a city of only 4.5 million people, had over 8,000 video game jobs. And just to put that in perspective, at the time there were only 10,000 such jobs in all of the UK, with a population of 60 million, and only 13,000 in California, which is the home of the industry. So these programs, when executed and promoted correctly, really do attract the companies that can bring, in some cases, foreign talent, but you need sometimes, you know, experienced leadership to come in and train up the local staff and make leaders. And where I lived in Vancouver for many years, that one studio that EA purchased 30-some years ago spun off 75 companies just in Vancouver alone.
Wow, amazing. Well, thank you for that. Mr. Mohammed, messages?
Well, we certainly live in an ever-evolving world, yeah? So professions that were lucrative in the past and prestigious as engineering and doctor, and then you have another evolution. We went to computer programmers and all that. I was having a discussion with a friend of mine a couple of months back, and he has a young child, and he was complaining about his kid. He's always on the iPad or computer,
Playing.
and he even posted some content on YouTube, and he has a lot of followers now, and that he had stopped him and blocked him, erased his account from YouTube. And I was like, well, I'll tell you what, you're doing the wrong thing, and you need to get him back on, because if you want to retire early, this is your way out, right? So this is the first message. Now it's much more culturally accepted. If it was 10 or 15 years back, you tell people that you do games and play, and they wouldn't take you as serious, at least here in Saudi. That's our perspective. The other message is to, just like Mr. Brian mentioned, you gotta take advantage of these existing programs. We also gotta definitely do a better job at marketing. I fully agree, and this is something that we recognized, as we are always checking the performance. Are we up to the performance that we expected, and getting the KPIs that we believe that we should have? So this is something that we are working on. I want to assure the audience. And the other thing, like for instance, talent should take advantage. I mentioned the training program that we have in the Gaming Academy. But I tell you what, we also have apprenticeship program that's going to be kicked off in October by MISA. Yeah? We have also scholarship programs for gaming that'll be devised by the end of this year. So just keep an eye out. Make sure you follow the latest on the happenings of the sector and what's being offered out there.
Thank you so much. Mr. Marcus, one last message.
Well, I would say the message goes out to the young people in the crowd. If they are passionate about gaming, I think it's an industry worthwhile pursuing your career within the kingdom, because I think also learning from what didn't work in other countries and having that hybrid approach of public-private on the one side and organic, anorganic on the other side, you have a very good chance to get rid of that chicken and egg problem that if you, because it's all about talent, but if you skill people and you don't have the, the positions that they can grow in. And so that's why I think it's a very good approach to have that, a hybrid perspective, so that everybody that is pursuing a career, and once they go through the ranks in 3, 5, 10 years time, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I mean, I've worked on that in Germany, and it took, I don't know, 15 or 20 years, and it was very decentralized, so there was no master plan. So, I think that perspective is there, and everybody who is, have a passion, and there's a few countries with so many passionate gamers in terms of percentage. There will be opportunities once they did the curricula.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walid.
So I remember when I first joined Ilm, it was an e-gov company here in Saudi. That was in 2008. Everyone laughed at us, saying, why would Saudi succeed in doing e-government when other countries more advanced couldn't do it? And now, everyone knows Ilm, everyone knows Abshir, Tawakkalna, and everything else that spawned out of this. We did prove to the world that we can do this. The other thing is, the gaming industry, whatever you think of it, it's much bigger than what you think. It's $159 billion, which is bigger than the box office, the music industry, and the streaming platform revenues, all combined. True. Right? So my only advice is, and I'll give you another example. So one of the things that gaming did actually is made computing what it is today. The advances in computing happened partially because of the need for better gaming. In fact, AI today owns a lot of the progress that happened to gamers because of NVIDIA and the graphic cards, GPUs, and so on. Same for crypto. NVIDIA is an example of what kind of advanced tech can come out of gaming. If you think about it, not just as publishing games, not just as AAA games, but a whole value chain. There's lots of opportunity within that $159 billion. So I say it's we're already lucky to have a big market here locally, and we're lucky that the government now is opening the door for entrepreneurs to come in, and we have a pipeline from early stage up to later stages. So the whole thing is there. Now you have no excuse not to get into gaming.
Well, thank you so much, our great speakers, right, for the great insights, and we learn much more about the initiatives and the future. Now it's your turn, our audience. Try to find your passion, follow your passion. And thank you so much for being a great audience tonight. And thank you so much again. And we'll take it over back to Faisal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With us, Akib, Mr. Basim, Mohammadi, Mr. Brian, and everybody on the panel, thank you so much for this. And definitely, Future Tech continues. Future Tech Talk. Please. Thank you so much. Future Tech Talk continue. Now, in the beginning, we talked about, let's say, a global success story. From there, we talked about the future of game development. From there as well, we talked about, as we saw in our previous panel, about literally the game industry and everything that goes with it, with potential and absolute investments and opportunities. Now, we got to move on to a local success story. I'm going to be saying some name titles, and I really hope that you guys know them. I'm going to say them in Arabic. So, anybody knows a game called ملك Right. Okay. Anybody knows King of Taqis? Mumtaz. So these are local games that are extremely famous in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And from there, it's absolutely delightful to welcome on stage Mr. Ali Al-Harbi, founder and CEO of UMX Studio Game Development Company, our local success story for today. Hayak.
Assalamu alaikum. First, thank you, ThinkTech, thank you, sponsor, thank you for everyone joining to us tonight. try to make sure. Yeah. This is not my. Yeah, I think I need help here because this is not my presentation. I think this is Kevin presentation. Faisal? Faisal? Just a moment. Click. Okay. Oh, it's going. Okay. I think there is some lag here in this. Okay. Before we start, I would like to talking about most of gaming company, or usually gaming company using animals as a logo or front image. So we are in Umix studio. Umix meaning it's Euromystics. So we are using a national lizard, call it الضوء. So we are Studio الضوء because we are based in Saudi Arabia. So how Umix seed, when we start Umix Studio back 2014, I have no knowledge in game development. Today, in Umix, we have 50 employees working on game development, game designer, live ops, and marketing, game community management. So this is how Umix started. And okay, it's working now. So when we start, we choose a basic idea, space shooter game, but we kill it because we see the market, it's crowded to similar idea. So we are choosing an exciting idea, inspiring by Thamama Sand Dune. So this kind of game, it's very small game, just 2 cars, 1 small map, and you follow the fuel before timer end. And actually this version, it was released back 2014, in the end of June 2014. So as you see, this version, when we release it, it's become a top 1 in matter of hours, until month. It's become a top 1 in more than 20 countries with zero marketing. So we believe this kind of content represent Saudi Arabia or environment, give our game more uniqueness. So after this game hit the market, back 2014, we hire people. We update our version, our games. So today we have 3 games. One is King of Steering. As you see here is Riyadh Boulevard. And here CST, that game I mentioned before, it's the latest version actually. And also our new title is Barud. We will talking about it later. And our game actually reached 2 billion impression in Google and Apple Store, and just for 2 games, and in racing category. So this is a huge number in mobile market. And the good things, we are happy in Umix, in racing category based in data AI, Umix game, it's a top 1 revenue in 23 countries. Plus, we have 50 million downloads. Most of these downloads happened last 3 years. And we have more than 2 million players active monthly on our games. So also I encourage you guys to download our game. from the store, and please buy in our game, make an app purchase. So based on our experience with developing game, we see that the game should be, especially in mobile game community, should be a social and multiplayer. Let me give you an example. Climbing Sand Dune, it's a multiplayer game with social elements that lead our player enjoy and playing together, chat together, send a gift even to each other if we make some updates in our game. So you can simulate sand dune, you can upgrade your car engine and enjoy with racing in sand dune. And another example, it's King of Steering. It's another car game. So this game, it's open world game, but here we reflective Saudi culture with also GCC culture. So as I mentioned here, we are using a desert. You can go trip with your friend. And yeah, so we are, as you see here, our games, it's ranked from top 5 crossing. And yeah, so it's actually top 4 since years. To make a game obtain the top 5 crossing in the mobile market and in racing category, it's really a big challenge. So we're happy in Yomix. Our game, it's become since years a top crossing. Yomix team working very well in marketing and monetization strategy, live ops, and also community management. Yeah, we also happy our game featured and top chart games, trending, and will become features in Saudi National Day in Apple Store. And before my presentation ends, I cannot end my presentation without talking about new baby Baroud. Our new baby Baroud, it's based on our experience in sand dune, climbing sand dune game. We using the same concept of sheikh, a leader of tribe, and this game, it's still in soft launch actually. So we built it a real-time fighting game. So it's actually 8 years since we start. It's a long years without knowledge, without experience, and we're happy. Today we see more incentive from government sector, from VC also interesting in game development. So we believe the gaming industry here will be the bright future. And where is? Yeah, there is some slide missing here. So I think maybe. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy about our story. Thank you so much.
Ali, thank you so much, Ali. يعطيك العافية يا رب. Well, perfect on time. يعطيك العافية. سلمت الله عليك. Sure. Right, muted. For me, I gotta utilize this opportunity to thank properly previous session, the panelists. Thank you for Mr. Basim Al-Mohammadi, who is the Startup Development Consultant and CEO of Zitmint, Mr. Brian Ward, CEO of Savvy Games Group, Mr. Mohammed Al-Rubay'an, Secretary General of Digital Content Council in Saudi Arabia and Advisor to His Excellency, the Minister of Communication and Information Technology for Strategic Projects, Mr. Marcus Dimphil, who is the partner at EY Parthenon, Strategy, and of course, Mr. Walid Al-Ballaa, General Partner at Sukna Ventures VC. Please welcome them as well. Thank them with me. Now we move on to our next panel. And within our next panel, we'll be definitely talking about another interesting topic. We're talking about attracting investors in gaming and game development and technology. Please do welcome on the stage, again with me, Mr. Basim Al-Mohammadi, Startup Development Consultant at CEO at Zimpment. I do apologize, His Excellency, Dr. Nabil Kosha couldn't be with us today. We wish him, inshallah, the best of luck with the business that he's got ongoing now. And welcome with me on the stage as well, Mr. Abdulaziz Al-Umran, co-founder and CEO of Impact 46. Hayakallah. Mr. Ma'an Ishqi, partner at Venture Souq. Hayakallah. Nawartu the stage. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Faisal. Just a small comment, it's excitement. But I didn't tell you that before. Excitement.
Excitement, I was like using the X for Z.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
do apologize. Excitement.
We'll try to be like smart, but we didn't make, I can't tell. Assalamu alaikum again. Sorry guys, you're stuck with me and in another panel, so inshallah we'll make this lighter because we're going to talk about investment tonight. We welcome our panelists. How are you doing? How was your trip? I know you came from Jeddah, right?
True.
MashaAllah. Okay.
Between Jeddah, Riyadh, Dubai, everywhere.
MashaAllah. Welcome. Maybe we'll if you're going to start with sharing a story about your interest in gaming, I would say, or within the family.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story that happened today. Welcome everyone, first of all. I was talking with someone today about explaining the play-to-earn concept.
Okay.
So in gaming, you have two concepts. You have the pay-to-play. So you go and buy a tool or a weapon, you just pay for it. Now the trend today, and especially in low-income countries, is the play-to-earn. So what happened, I was explaining to this guy the story, someone in Algeria, it's a low-income country. He is playing, spending hours and hours every day, trying to, from level 1 to 2 and 3, earning tools or rewards, and then he would go and sell it to high-income countries. And I was explaining that concept, and then an hour before I come here, my son sent me a message. Qal li, Baba, can I get $20 to buy my way up a game? Don't tell me use the play-to-earn concept, because that's a waste of time for me. I want to level up now. So it's interesting, that story tells you in the gaming, it really unified the whole MENA market. You have players everywhere playing different concepts, selling tools and rewards to each other, which I think that's how important is gaming. It unifies the whole MENA market, or the whole world, as they say. Yeah. So that's a story that happened today, which is very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you have something to share?
I guess I haven't prepared the story, but I guess everyone remembers the days of the lockdown during COVID, and that's the time I spent the most on games, and that's the time where we really thought about taking investment into gaming really seriously. Looking at the bills we're paying for me and for my kids, and I truly believe it's money well spent, because it rewarded me a lot more entertainment when I compare it to any other type of entertainment. So yes, so here we at Impact 46 are keen on investing and taking part of this evolving scene of gaming, and we hope we can be part of this evolving wave and help fuel it and take it forward.
Amazing.
As we did with many entrepreneurs across different sectors and different industries, we view gaming the same thing, and we think we can push the envelope just a little bit further, I hope.
So you guys in Impact 46, you invest in early stages company or late or early stages?
We invest in both early and growth stages, although most of what we've been investing in looking from our track record is mostly in the growth stage. So the larger tickets where a company, we rarely come in before revenue. It's usually post-revenue. Let's say historically our experience with gaming wasn't so great. I think we approached gaming the same way we approached many other industries. We start off by looking for platforms because platform investing, as you already know, is usually the most lucrative investment. So we thought, we came in thinking we want a platform in gaming. Now, over time, we quickly realized that in gaming, I don't think you can get around content creation. Sitting and waiting for the next platform, I don't think is a wise idea. So we got into content creation, or we're looking for content creators. Ideally, the ones that can utilize economies of scale and network effects, or building communities around any content. Because if it's a normal content play, as you would already expect, it's usually not very scalable and not ripe for, may not give us the 10x we're looking for as venture capitalists. So we're looking for we're still looking, I have to emphasize. The support we're getting is from government entities and various stakeholders is immense. We're excited. We have dedicated team only looking at the gaming opportunity. We already made one investment in esports gaming and PlayHera. With Naif al-Malab being here, I commend them on the great work they're doing there.
Congratulations.
But that's still, I think it's just the beginning. We would like to do a lot more, and I invite anyone here in the audience, although some of them already left, but I'd like to hear from game developers and publishers, what can we do more to help them? At the same time, what do you have to offer us that can show us our investment will create economies of scale, will create networks, will build communities around your content. So I think it's a two-way channel.
Yeah, we'll try to open it up for the audience.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something.
Please, Matt.
The moment we invested in gaming and ventures, we invested in a couple of companies globally and locally. The moment I decided to get into investing in gaming is when I found 4 of the 10 grossing apps in Saudi Arabia are gaming apps. To explain this more, PUBG makes $150 million a year from KSA alone. That 4 apps out of 10, that's more than fintechs, more than health tech, more than even e-commerce. This tells you the amount of money that's been putting into this. Then we invested in a regional company called Tamatem. It's a publishing company. We invested in a company called Niftycraft, which basically, the story of this company is very interesting. The guy created a pay-to-play company. So it's a gaming. You pay and then you play. Then he said people were going around the platform and selling these items and rewards off the platform. Then I decided to switch and created Niftycraft, which is basically a marketplace or a platform where he sells items on the platform and makes money out of that as a reward. Guns, whatever be it, you win it, you put it there, you offer it, you sell it. He said, I found a gap and then I switched to this. So we invested in a couple of games and we're looking for some more. But for startups here, I think we treat them as a normal startup. You need to have the right business model. You need to have a friendly jurisdiction structure for investors to be attractive in investing in your company. And then they need to find the right market for them, segments. So it's exactly as investing in any other sectors. They just need to be ready and investable ready. Gamers usually are tech guys. So they need the business side of things also to be in place so we can invest as venture capital. So that's from my side. Any questions or go ahead?
Well, this was my question for you guys. you already took part of it, which is what make a startup gaming company investable? So the VC or even angel investors or VCs or other investors will be encouraged to or incentivize to go and put some money in that company.
Yeah, like I said, they need to have the right structure, legal structure, friendly, investable, so for us to invest. Because they need to be able to grow outside of Saudi. I think you guys mentioned earlier that one region is not enough. Although, you know, Saudi is the largest in MENA by numbers, but you need to have that structure in place so you allow international investors or acquisition to take place and for these companies to grow outside of Saudi. The second one is the business model. They need to have the right business model in place. And third, they need to target the right segment. What I mean by that is you have three different areas. You have the consoles, you have Xbox, and you have PlayStation, the hardware. That's the bigger play. And then you have the publishing and development. And then you have the esports, which is for gamers and for fans. So just find where you want to go and grow, because these are three different things and it's huge. Just focus, and the companies I saw here are usually not ready for investment. The guys, they need guidance. So we as investors, we need to invest in them. We need to guide them to the right structure, right business model, help them navigate through, because it's a new sector. And it's very difficult for these guys to do it on their own. So these three things are very important for investors to make an investment decision on why would I invest. Yeah.
Yes, Abdulaziz.
Yes. Okay, so just like my colleague Man said, you have the three main categories, whether it's console games, PC games, and mobile games. All three categories are growing. The area that's growing the most is mobile games, as most of you probably already know. And the nice thing about mobile games is it's the one that needs the least upfront, let's say, investment or outlay. So it's in a way the most democratic, let's say, of the three. And that's the one that's growing the most and expected to dominate the market in the future. I think the mobile gaming opportunity is vast and is accessible to us. We have a good shot at this, and in a way, it's a lot like any other content creation play. If you think of YouTube, what YouTube did to video content creators, I think mobile games can do the same thing. If you think of hyper-casual games, just like Ali was talking about, the game Ali was talking about, King of Steering, I think that's an excellent example of a local content creator that found his way on the app stores and built his fan base, and I think he's up for a great business ahead of him, and I think we need to see more of Ali's stories, and it's not as difficult as console or PC games. So I think I'm quite optimistic, and I think we will see the rise of hopefully multiple stories of like UMX Studios. From there, you will see hopefully a bigger number of publishers, and I think that's the best way to cement our name in the gaming industry and take the fair share that we deserve.
Yeah, and actually they did it very well, mashallah. And I was playing the game last night, just to after our last meeting with Ali, and it was exciting. Do you?
If you allow me, I'll also mention another success story: the card games. Of course. Balot, many, at least the local player Kamilna from Rimal IT, I think is a story worth mentioning because they succeeded in a card game that was quite unique to Saudi and the GCC. Now they're venturing into other geographies, and I think that's another good example of success built on a mobile game.
Do you see more mergers and acquisitions, like between local companies or even international and local companies coming?
Yeah, so I think this طبعا helps the local market big time.
Sure.
يعني the more acquisition, it helps the local players. It encourages entrepreneurs to start gaming. Recently, we saw the Krafton, the makers of PUBG, led the Tamatim round, the last round. And talking to Krafton, I know they have $250 million to invest in the MENA region. This is their mandate now. Another one was, I think, a company in Jordan, Jawakir. It was acquired by an international player. And then you have different, you can see that there's hunger from global developers and investors to come to this region because, of course, of the high, revenue per units and the number of people and number of gamers and the market, the economics. So I see this happening, and I think we'll see more. But again, you need to have the right infrastructure for these entrepreneurs to find their way, create their games. Investor will invest in them, grow the company, exits, both makes money. Investors will reinvest, companies will create other companies. We are so early in the cycle, but that's the normal cycle. But once this moves, you will see a lot of acquisitions and a lot of different. Again, the international players are looking at the market, and PUBG makes $150 million from KSA. There's no point for them not to invest, and that's why Krafton is allocating $250 million as a start. Yeah.
How do you see that, Abdulaziz? Taking at this point and going forward, maybe we're going to see more IPOs even in this industry.
Hopefully, why not? Yes, we became known for exits. Yes, why not see a local champion that gets listed on a local stock exchange? Why not? I think the activity, M&A activity, is an excellent way for. Excellent avenue for that creates exits for local players. Many markets struggle with exits, and so we should look at M&As as a good thing, and hopefully more often than not they pose opportunities more than threats. We have I think maybe regulations around app stores and privacy regulations. That's probably, I think that's where a lot of activity is happening, and that's likely to affect the gaming industry maybe more than M&As. I think M&As are mostly a positive catalyst. I think the bigger concern is privacy laws and app store, let's say, uncompetitive practices, let's say. I think these are the bigger threats, bigger concerns that one should keep in mind.
Build the companies so they can be acquired. You need to help them grow and be in a position. Yeah. No, I'll tell you another thing. We're early backers of Telfaz 11, which is one of the largest local content creators for Mamlaka. And there is a link between entertainment and gaming.
Of course.
It's all about local content. We all want it, and it's underserved. So the content Telfaz creates today is bought by Amazon Prime, Netflix, other platforms, global platforms. The same thing with gaming. You need to support local entrepreneurs to come up with local games that fits our society and our economy. And then these guys, it's the same thing, because I think you asked a question about entertainment, how is it relevant to gaming? And I think they're both the same. We're hungry for it, it's underserved. Local content is the key here. And then international players will just come and buy it. So I think it's interesting how gaming, the guys were mentioning earlier, it's everything. It's media, it could be any type of...
Yeah, it is event management, it is media, as a content creator, so many value chain in the industry. As we promised our audience, if we want to ask any questions for the panelists with us here about the investment, we can take the questions right now.
If we have any questions, we'd like to make it as interactive as possible. I think we have a question here, Madri.
Yeah, sure. You can speak in Arabic. We will translate that.
يعطيك العافية. شكرا أخوي فيصل. قصرت.
تفضل.
السلام عليكم. معكم
السلام.
محمد العلي جيم ديفلوبر. تقريبا
لو تقرب المايك شوي عشان اسمعك.
معكم محمد العلي جيم ديفلوبر. انا اشتغل على اللي هو تطوير العاب على بلاي ستيشن والاكس بوكس. طبعا تجربتي تقريبا من سنه ونص او سنتين في المجال هذا. كل التركيز عندنا في السوق على الالعاب الموبايل. هل مثلا الالعاب اللي هو الاكس بوكس والبلاي ستيشن بيلقى نفس التركيز من ناحيه الاهتمام، من ناحيه اللي هو التمويل، من ناحيه الاستثمار؟ بحكم تجربتي طبعا بكون صريح جدا، قضيت فيها وقت طويل. اللعبه كان جرافيك حقها والمراحل حقها جدا ممتازه، لكن لما نزلناها كانت جدا محبطه. طبعا من ناحيه وشو؟ من ناحيه طبعا يمكن ما عندنا امكانيه اللي هو استهداف اللاعبين مثلا، او اللي يسمونه انالايز او التحليل او زي كذا. فودي اسمع منكم الشيء هذا، كيف اني اقدر او الفريق اللي معي نقدر نكست ليفل على اساس نطور اللعبه.
اسم الكريم عفوا؟
محمد العلي.
محمد العلي. Okay.
نعم.
I just want to translate. So Muhammad Ali was asking that he's a game developer, but he developed a console game on PlayStation or an Xbox.
حاليا على ستيم، لكن هي مهيئه حاليا ايضا
Steam. So he's asking whether the support is targeted towards mobile games only, and does it cover console games? Now, please don't get me wrong. I was talking about the area we thought was easiest to penetrate. You're already in the more complicated part, and I think all three categories, both categories are well worth investing in. I'm just saying the mobile games are easier to penetrate and require less capital. So yes, essentially eventually traction and ability to put your game in front of players and attracting gamers, of course, is the holy grail. Yet it doesn't mean that we favor one area more than the other. To the contrary, I would say if a successful game on a console may be worth more than another mobile game with a similar success, because you have bigger barriers to entry. It's just that, of course, traction, nothing beats traction. And if you succeeded in developing a console game, I think it will be easy for you to test out on mobile games as well. Why not venture into mobile games? That's just an advice from an outsider. You know best. So the comment I was making was what is easier and more accessible. But if you can access the console games, I think you can have better exposure and potentially higher barriers to entry.
Okay, shukran Ali. Thank you for your question. Thank you, our great panelists. It was a great session. Our audience, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and hopefully we'll see you back again shortly.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Bassem Al-Muhammadi, Startup Development Consultant and CEO of, I'm going to say it right?
Excitement.
All right, Excitement. Right. Mr. Abdulaziz Al-Imran, co-founder and CEO of Impact 46, as well as Ma'an Ishqi, partner at Venture Souq. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
So, now when it comes to our next session, we will be talking about the actual latest marketing trends in gaming, game development and technology itself. And allow our moderator for next session to introduce as well the panelists for it. But let me introduce the moderator. He is the Senior Digital Marketing Specialist at STC Play, Mr. Ali Al-Qaraawi. Hayyak Ali. You can welcome him on stage. Yes. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Allow me to introduce our panelists for the day. We have Mr. Chester King, the CEO for the British Esport and the chairman, and the vice president of the Global Esports Federation. Next, we have Naif Malab. He's the chairman and the CEO of PlayHera. I would consider you a best friend too. And next we have Mus'ab al-Malki. He's the CEO of Spoils Game Development and Publishing. Welcome. Welcome, gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about the latest trends in gaming, marketing, and the technology behind marketing. I believe everybody, since they woke up, they have seen an ad, they have been marketed to, they have seen an artwork, either for a game, fashion, a shop, and e-commerce or whatever. And I want to ask this question for everyone here on the panel. What are the latest and what is new in marketing in the gaming industry, in the entertainment industry as of late? For anyone who's new in the up and coming in gaming. I think it's not working.
Hello. Oh, there you go. Hi. Yeah, so I work in a very specific element of gaming. I purely work in esports, and what we've seen in marketing over in the UK and the West is about creating new events, because we want to create heroes. So we've done a number of series events in parallel to sports event, and what's really interesting is some of the publishers have been picking up on those heroes. So we just last month ran an event for the Commonwealth Esports Championships. It was hugely successful. On the back of that, the games publishers were using some of the heroes from that. And one of the personal things that I find really interesting about marketing at the moment is using old IP. So for example, in Fortnite, you can play as a character from a very famous movie. So it's hitting an older demographic. So they're trying to hit the more senior gamer, the kind of 40 plus. So there's two things that I'm involved with. One is the esports competitions and publishers using them to promote their games as a marketing experience and create heroes. And then also I'm finding it really interesting, the crossover of entertainment in IP of existing movies into movie franchises into games.
I think the game publisher here playing a very crucial part actually toward, let's say, the IP that they have created. And the tournament and the competition is also a very, let's say, appealing part right now that's generating a very huge content from this tournament and through that IP. And we are witnessing right now that even right now the content creators and the availability and some of the content creators today we have in the gaming industry, I think they are even equivalent to the lifestyle influencers, and even their price tag is much more than the lifestyle influencers. So I think the game publishers, they are playing a very crucial part in that, and the esport, the activation, the offline, online, it's also playing a very complementary actually method around it that's actually giving a very huge hype around the content.
Yeah. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for having me here today. Well, if we are going to talk about the marketing techniques and trends in a game development landscape, we should focus first on what people do on the internet. So here in Saudi Arabia, they spend most of their time on social media, and as the statistic says, like 8 hours of their time is on social media or on the internet. So for us as a gaming development company and the publisher, we focus on social media and utilizing or optimizing the App Store, like on Android and Apple, trying to do the best use of Facebook if we are going abroad and going global, and also TikTok. TikTok today is very useful and helpful to promote and test the market first before even you develop the game. So we do the market research on the social media to see the potential and interest from the players, and then we utilize this further and further.
All right, thank you. But when you're using TikTok and such, and you're trying to market for a new game, where do influencers fall into the equation? I mean, we're using ads on Instagram, Twitter, and Google. Where is, for you, the influencer outreach, for example?
Oh, yeah. So influencers and micro-influencers, they are always looking for content. So providing them with the content, the right and strong content to be used. And also we leveraged the TikTok ads to promote for, let's say, non-community players, people they don't know you. So you'll get the honest and the clearer feedback from the community.
All right, great. Mr. King, you have mentioned movies using Fortnite and adding their own characters into Fortnite. Why do you think other businesses are starting to look into gamification in the gaming industry? Why are they going hard into the gaming industry and they're trying to, let's say, for example, Fortnite, Marvel, and adding Thanos to Fortnite, for example. And then we saw, as of late, also Masamir had something to do with PUBG. They added their parachute. They did an ad. Why do you think gamification is big right now?
Yeah, so I think, if we said, games is part of everyone's life. It's not a niche thing anymore. And, there's a generation that have just been brought up gaming. So, I'm 51. I've got a son who was born in the year 2000. And as a parent, I watched his whole journey. In the UK, we describe esports as an active media. I'm very positive about active media. I'm very negative against passive media and social media. But I like esports. I like the human interaction. And what's interesting to me about the Fortnite and how clever Epic are. So Epic own Fortnite, and they own obviously Rocket League. And at the moment, you can go within Fortnite, go into a stadium in a Rocket League and actually watch a tournament that's happening in reality, but you're watching it in a metaverse environment. So they're crossing over from a marketing point of view as a publisher, Fortnite into Rocket League. So I think for me, gaming is part of everyone's life. Some of the stuff that we're doing in the UK, we've got a qualification that the British government approved where you study esports at a high school level. So we've got 5,000 people. This is the second year of doing it. So for me, gaming is just part of everyone's nature, and it's really exciting to see this crossover of marketing.
Amazing. And I think that this is something that we're actually seeing, because I'm seeing lots of companies that are not into gaming per se. They're having their brands all over esports competitions and tournaments and streams. And for you, where do you think this is going? I mean, it's right now with movie characters and such. Where do other companies go?
So one of the businesses I have is a joint venture with Williams Formula One. So we have a Rocket League team and a Fortnite team. So they wanted to kind of be relevant and hit a certain audience. So what you've got is mainstream sports brand using esports as a marketing channel to hit a different demographic, to kind of appeal to them and promote their stuff. I think what's interesting, if you talk, and Kevin was talking earlier about what's happening in an entertainment point of view, the big push in the Olympics is around the term virtual sports. So you've got an esports group, and then you've got virtual sports, which is games, video games of sports. So next March in Singapore will be the first Olympic virtual series. So again, you're going to see brands that go, well, hang on, if the Olympics are promoting video games, then that's going to be okay. So I think there's going to be more and more brands involved in video games and esports.
All right, that's amazing. I want to move to the second point, which is going to be about game development, and how can game developers utilize and take advantage of this shift towards gamification and the boom that we're seeing in the gaming industry and the interest that is being taken to game developers.
Yeah. So when we talk about gamification, it's not coming only from game developers. It came from the product managers user experience grows. Gamification is not having like points, badges, and leaderboard. It's not only this. It's about making something to convert non-gaming context, or let's say something boring, into a product that drives or lead generation. How can game developers get advantage of this big shift? Well, actually, starting by building a community first. Once you decide your game idea and you do the market research, then start building the community around you. Share with them what you did and what features that they want. Because if you share it with your friends or with your family, then they will always give like a positive feedback. You will not get the real feedback. And the community will spread the word, and they will promote for you, and they will give you the real feedback that you want in your game. We saw a lot of companies, they use the gamification. Well, one of them, like, they implement a game, which is here in Saudi Arabia, like Jahez, food delivery app. They implement a game just to kill the waiting time. Once you deliver a food, and then everyone is hungry and want to eat, then, yeah, let me play a game till the driver drop the package. However, the developers can build a lot of immersive engagement or engaging content. A lot of companies are willing to have these to enhance the user retention, the user spend time within their application. And yeah, follow the trends, follow every new techniques and new technologies out there. Use it with your products.
Thank you. And would you say that also product placements is within the gamification into game development, that game developers can also add products for sponsors and such into their games?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is kind of like promoting their games, and if you have like high user retention or daily active users, then you can put a lot of ads replacements. Not only the ad tech or digital ads, you can also sell like this placement for such a company to just put their logo. But if we talk about another thing, like what's the feeling that you want the user to get the best use of? We didn't work with any company to do a gamification for them, but analyzing a lot of experiences like Nike, Booking.com, and a lot other stuff, other companies, they do a gamification, like a hidden gamification within their app to encourage the user and drive them to generate more revenue.
I think there is no difference between actually building this gamification within the game development or the esport tournament development, let's say, or sorry, esport tournament through an online platform. Like what we have done in Playhera, for example. Now, you know that the activation for the brands through online tournament is something that is really lucrative for them and it's important. And recently we're witnessing right now the appetite from the sponsor to have some sort of activation through a tournament and actually communicate with the players while they are playing. So the esport, let's say it's a fun engagement tool or a fun engagement approach between the brands and the gamers. Choosing a title, of course, onboarding them to have, let's say, through a robust platform, trying to onboard the maximum number that you can, unifying the experience and providing, let's say, a robust competitive experience journey. That's what we're doing in Playhera. And now, actually, the logo placement, the video placement of the sponsors, they're sponsoring the tournament. It's within the journey, within the platform itself. So basically, while you are participating in the tournament, aiming to win that prize pool, you are going to see this journey, and there is the judge or the community tournament, the community management, they are communicating with you within the app itself. That's, hey, use this promo code, for example, if the tournament for Jahez, or they can watch the video while they are joining the tournament. so on and so forth. So gamification, I think from the grassroots is very important. From product development, it's also very important too. And it's actually one of the things that it's really going to differentiate your business. So in PlayHero, we are really believing that the product management / the gamification is the key, and hopefully we can see it in the rest of the platforms that they are doing competition or game development or any segment within the gaming ecosystem.
All right, that's amazing. My next question is going to be directed toward you, Mr. King, and Mr. Naif. How has esports contributed to the rise in the marketing efforts by local companies and international companies, whether through players or the games themselves?
Yeah, so what's been interesting in the UK is the crossover. So every Premier League football team has an esports team. Every Formula One team has an esports team. So you're getting brands who might not be able to afford to be a sponsor of the traditional sport. There's now an opportunity for them to become a sponsor of an esport. So I think it's become a lot more attractive for brands to try stuff. But also, agreeing with you about the community, and Philip said something really interesting earlier about, if you've just got a game with 10,000 users, for some sponsors, that's incredible to have 10,000 users who are sponsors. So I think you can be so targeted, and a lot of the work that we're doing in the UK is saying to brands, well, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to target a specific demographic? Are you trying to get a response? So what I like about esports on kind of a very marketing level is it is an incredibly interactive channel where you get really real-time feedback, but that has its dangers as well, because if it can go wrong or you post something in the wrong way, the community will be very vocal about that. So for me, there's a lot of opportunities about localizing it. But as I say, you need to have heroes. And I think the one travesty for this region is you don't have enough franchises. So you don't have a Call of Duty league playing in the Call of Duty league over in the States. You don't have a proper franchise system. But I think once the publishers realize how important this market is, then they'll put more servers over here and they'll put more franchise leagues over here.
So I will use Al Hilal as an example here. So basically, there is attraction from the national clubs here in Saudi Arabia that they would like to tap into this industry. And actually, our partnership is to synergize what they're doing in the national clubs, or the football club, and bring that legacy that they have built into the esport. And of course, utilizing the platform that we built and the experience that we have in the operation of the esport overall. So it's really very challenging where you actually try to promote the esport competition and because their expectation is like, okay, we just won the ASEAN Premier League, and they're expecting the same, for example, with Rocket League, but here it's a totally different story. But right now, actually holding their hands, bringing the right coaches, bringing the right esporter, the right people that they have an ambitious to actually represent the club and to take the ladder from bottom up. Right now, we are actually conducted more than 300 tournaments on behalf of Al Hilal, and we got a very good scouting for, let's say, the national, the football team that they're going to compete on behalf of Al Hilal name, and they are going to participate into international tournaments, especially for the titles that it's just recently got, like Valorant, Rocket League, Counter-Strike, and the last one, if I recall properly, I think it's Counter-Strike. Yes, I think this is the three titles that we are participating as we speak.
One thing that's very important for Saudi is the Global Esports Games. So next December, so not this December, but next December, you'll be hosting the Global Esports Games. Our first event was last Singapore. We had 500 million views. So anyone getting involved in advertising in that, representing your country, we're going to Istanbul this December, but we'll be here wearing the Global Esports Games in December next year. So, from brands and a marketing point of view, supporting your national team playing in an esports tournament, is the future. And as I say, we just had an incredible journey in Birmingham during our Commonwealth Games where we had 30 countries coming over to participate. So I think there's a great marketing trend there about, creating your heroes. I know you've had some great FIFA players, but hopefully you get some other,
The fourth time.
Yeah.
It was FIFA.
I see. We have reached, I believe, the end of this beautiful panel, but I would like to ask also one question for each of our panelists here. I want one thing that you wish that you have learned at the start of your journey in the gaming industry that you know right now. The first thing that comes to your mind.
Well, let me start then.
All right.
Again, my team always know me that I'm focusing on community and market research. So at the beginning, we start like, we got that enthusiastic and we want to do everything. We think big, but let's be realistic. So if I go back with the time, I'd be more realistic. And of course, we failed, and we failed at the very early beginning. So focusing on community, as I mentioned, community is the key. They empower and will give you always the direction. You will understand from them. Actually, it's like competitive advantage if you take like from the local players. We have like the most spending, and for sure all the previous panelists talk about the high spend from Saudi Arabia. So focusing on community, know from them, be very close to them, and then you're on the way to make ahead.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm an investor also. So I think the 2016, if I bought shares in Activision Blizzard, Tencent, and face it, I would be a smart man. But I think what's interesting is, I've just spent a lot of time in India this year, and you've got pockets around the world where, for example, everyone's talking about how successful PUBG Mobile is here. In the UK, only 160,000 people play PUBG. So there's a lot of opportunities around the world in esports, and for me, I think Saudi is a great opportunity, and I think India is a great opportunity because it's all mobile gaming. There isn't enough PC. So what I wish I'd learned 7-8 years ago was I'd traveled more to understand, what can you bring from other countries in? And I think this is what I like about the approach that you are doing as a country of welcoming everyone in, so you work together as a community. So if I'd been a bit more kind of global view rather than local view, I think that would have helped me.
Amazing.
For our side, I think when we started, our goal is first to, let's say, to acquire lucrative amount of users before we actually start monetizing from B2C perspective. If there is something that can take me back to correct one thing, it could be actually around the model where we actually should emphasize into creating a value proposition from day one for B2C to start monetizing the lucrative amount of users that we have today. I think this is the only mistake, maybe one of the mistakes, let's say, that I made personally. But yeah, again, building a value proposition, it's something, again, it's the most important, because again, even if you activate your revenue streams or even if you activate your B2C model, it's about the value proposition and the scalability and viability. So let's say right now we mastered and crafted our product from a tournament management perspective. We got an adoption right now from the telecom. I think right now we're introducing our ecosystem with our partner Zain Group and Zain Saudi, with the help from Mr. Arbi'an himself personally and the rest of the colleagues in Ministry of Communication. So we are trying right now actually to accelerate our introducing our value proposition. So pivoting from tournament to tournament e-commerce, cloud gaming, and content. So. This is going back to your question. I think maybe introducing the B2C model at an earlier stage, it's going to be one of the things that's maybe I would consider.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to Mr. Chester King, Naif Mala'ib, and Mus'ab Al-Malki. Thank you all very much. I would like for you, everyone, to clap for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Ali. يعطيك العافية. سلمت. Thank you. So literally, if we're talking about game development in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, now, alhamdulillah, I've been truly blessed that I've been following technology in the kingdom. Well, after leaving aircraft engineering field, I've been following tech for 15 years. The thing is, going back 15 years, I used to get humble calls from people who have initiatives about their games and about trying to make me, well, trying to convince me into talking about their game and trying to give it a bit of, let's say, exposure within social platforms. Well, it's a different time now. It's an amazing opportunity to literally try to be part of. If we're standing here, let me get to this side. I would have ever thought to see all those logos in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia supporting game development, from MCIT to ThinkTech. We're talking about game development. Gamers 8 and a full seasons about game development and gaming and entertainment and everything to do with education in that side. And having an actual, literally, اتحاد السعودي للرياضات الإلكترونية and esport having an official representation in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and of course, definitely 966. The thing is, this is the perfect opportunity. If you see that this opportunity is here for you, and you don't see a lot of people getting into it, well, that's good luck for you, because it's a bigger, definitely more of an opportunity that is given to you to be in the front line of game developers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. With that, I say, utilize this opportunity, be part of game development in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I definitely thank everybody who are the guests and the speakers and the talkers of today. Thank you for being guests at ThinkTech Talk. And for the final thing that I say, Subhanak Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Thank you guys. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.